The 1973 Christopher Street Liberation Day rally was meant to be a celebration of the camaraderie and bravery shown by those who paved the way for the gay liberation movement just 4 years prior during the Stonewall Uprising of 1969. However, the gay liberation movement was anything but a united front. Rising tensions caused by resentment toward minority groups within the community caused the rally to be seen as a symbol of division. A division that celebrated the very same adversity and injustice the movement was intended to overcome. It was during this rally that one brave and heroic woman named Sylvia Rivera fought and wrestled her way through an angry crowd onto the stage. But why? Today we will answer the question, why did Sylvia Rivera hijack the 1973 Christopher Street Liberation Day rally by examining and analyzing her speech, later named "Y'all Better Quiet Down," through the communication principle of Parrhesia. Through this presentation, we will also pay respect to Sylvia while bringing attention to her bravery, work, and struggles faced by transgender people within the early years of the gay liberation movement. We will begin this process by getting to know Sylvia, her work within the LGBTQ+ community, and what she stood for in regards to the community and movement. This will then be followed by a proper introduction of the communication concept, Parrhesia. Once we have an understanding of the concept, we can conduct an analysis of Sylvia's speech in relation to Parrhesia, and conclude with a discussion of the importance of the concept within the speech and the speech itself. So who was Sylvia Rivera? Sylvia was a Latina and self-proclaimed drag queen, but it was only until after her death that scholars, the LGBTQ+ community, and society came to recognize and refer to her as a transgender woman. It is important to recognize that Sylvia's life was not easy by any means. She lost both parents at the young age of 11 and as a result experienced extreme poverty and homelessness. These factors led her to addiction and sex work, causing multiple arrests throughout her lifetime. Sylvia understood what it was like to be homeless and in dire need of support. She could see that the struggles continually faced by minority members of the gay community were going unnoticed by the mainstream gay liberation movement. This led her and other transgender women to co-found the organization Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, also known as STAR, whose main mission was to house, protect, and provide support for transgender youths who were turned away by their family. So far, we've established Sylvia as a woman of color who did not want others to experience the hardships she faced in life. But Sylvia was more than a protector. She was a revolutionary. Sylvia was at the front lines of the Stonewall Uprising, leading the revolt against police brutality towards the gay community. She was protesting the inequalities the LGBTQ+ community faced during the AIDS crisis. She was there to fight for the passage of a New York bill that would award rights and forbid discrimination to transgender people. Sylvia stood for equality for all, and went out of her way to advocate for those who the mainstream gay liberation movement seemed to have forgotten about. Before we delve into Sylvia's speech, let's acquaint ourselves with the communication concept, Parrhesia. Parrhesia can be defined as a delivery style that focuses on presenting unwelcome truth in the face of adversity. This concept can be traced back to early Greek literature from roughly 484 BC to 407 BC. For an artifact or speech to be considered an act of Parrhesia, the speaker must meet all 5 of the concept's attributes defined by Michel Foucault. Number 1. Frankness. The speaker must say exactly what is on their mind by being open with their mind and heart. They should hold nothing back from the audience. Number 2. Truth. In this concept, the truth does not necessarily have to be true, but the speaker genuinely needs to believe that they are telling the truth, that their words are not only an opinion, but true facts. Number 3. Danger. The speaker needs to be in a position where there is risk of harm if they choose to speak their truth. To face adversity through Parrhesia, there must be severe danger of repercussions to the speaker. Number 4. Criticism. One of the main functions of Parrhesia is the ability to critique those in power. The speaker is not speaking their truth to a crowd of bystanders, but rather the audience should be the ones inflicting or causing the adversity. Number 5. Duty. The speaker must feel a sense of moral obligation to speak. The speaker must relinquish their freedom to stay compliant through silence and instead take action through their words. Foucault's interpretation of Parrhesia derives greatly from the Greeks, who viewed the delivery of this concept as a means of enacting change through abrasive communication. The 5 characteristics Foucault describes forces the speaker to engage in verbal combat with an enemy. Since Foucault's publication, many communication scholars have critiqued his interpretation and instead side with the modern Roman idea of Parrhesia. The Romans viewed the concept as a means of making peace with the enemy. The speaker would present their truth in a polite, democratic way to not only show composure, but a sense of respect to the audience. This is a drastic alteration to Foucault's iteration of the concept, but it opens the door for Parrhesia to be performed among a group of peers. Now that we are acquainted with Parrhesia, we can begin to analyze Sylvia Rivera's 1973 "Y'all Better Quiet Down" speech. For the sake of clarity, we will analyze the speech along with its accompanying events in chronological order rather than the order of the characteristics listed earlier. Before Sylvia even made it to the stage to give her speech, the danger aspect of Parrhesia was met. Sylvia was not invited to speak at the rally. She had to literally fight her way to the stage, pushing past a livid crowd who threw punches and insults. It was not until Sylvia publicly expressed outrage due to her exclusion and continual denial from speaking that the audience's mood soured. The audience heckled and booed as a bruised and bloodied Sylvia wrestled the microphone from a performer, further interrupting the celebration and angering the crowd. Prior to the assault, the audience had been peacefully enjoying the rally, performances, and various other speakers throughout the day. Sylvia's mere intent to speak on behalf of the unrepresented minority and incarcerated members of the LGBTQ+ community fostered a hostile and dangerous environment. Despite this, Sylvia began her speech, voice raspy and hoarse, by criticizing the audience, which mostly consisted of white men, for their lack of action and support for their fellow incarcerated gay brothers and gay sisters. She says that they failed their community, that the jailed members endured physical and sexual abuse along with the financial burden of purchasing hormonal therapy. Sylvia informs the crowd in a confident, accusatory tone that women seeking sex changes would not write to the women or men of the gay liberation movement, but STAR, the organization that Sylvia co-founded, because they knew that the other organizations would not help, but STAR would. Within her first 3 sentences, Sylvia criticized the mainstream gay liberation movement for their indifference and refusal of aid toward the less fortunate minority members of the movement. Sylvia follows this criticism by expressing her personal experiences of being jailed, beaten, and raped, all without the support or help from the movement. Sylvia was frank, full of raw emotion as she yells what she has lost for supporting the movement, for supporting and working toward gay liberation. I have been beaten, I have had my nose broken, I have been thrown in jail, I have lost my job, I have lost my apartment for gay liberation, and you all treat me this way? What the fuck is wrong with you all? Through these specific lines, Sylvia not only speaks from the heart, but pleads for the audience to recognize what their lack of action does, that their inaction affects real people like Sylvia. She became the embodiment and voice of the forgotten and neglected in this moment. After establishing her credibility and authority, Sylvia speaks the truth of the forgotten. I do not believe in a revolution, but you all do? I believe in the gay power. I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not be out there fighting for our rights. Here, Sylvia not only expresses the importance of advocating for gay rights, but also ensures that the audience knows that they are all a part of the gay community, but they are not fighting for the same things. In Sylvia's eyes, the audience is not an enemy, but they are an obstacle in the way of gay liberation. Sylvia's truth is akin to a preacher speaking to sinners, guiding them to see the error of their ways while presenting a path of salvation. Sylvia was not trying to make enemies. She was trying to make the audience see that she and others like her were not working against the movement. Sylvia's moment of frankness, truth, and criticism while facing and enduring real danger showcases the duty and moral obligation that Sylvia felt she was under. Sylvia was tasked with being the voice of the neglected to unite the community and strengthen the gay liberation movement. The pain of seeing her people and community helpless and broken day after day while others rejoiced thinking that the fight for liberation was over outweighed the fear of danger and personal safety. Sylvia reinforced this fight for unity by leading the audience in a chance for gay liberation and gay power. The conclusion to her speech was Sylvia's way of sharing her duty. She was no longer an other to the audience. She was recognized as a working part in the movement. So why did Sylvia hijack the 1973 Christopher Street Liberation Day rally? Because the community was not liberated. The gay liberation movement heightened and encouraged inequality faced by minorities deemed undesirable to the movement. Sylvia was one of many brave activists who dedicated their lives to gay liberation, but on that fateful day in 1973, she was every single disparaged person abandoned by the mainstream gay liberation movement. Her speech and delivery of Parrhesia presented the opportunity of power for the oppressed to turn their oppressors into allies, if only for the moment. Thank you for listening. Here are my references.